Well, my interest in jazz started when I was about 4 years old. My uncle babysat me and played me jazz. And instead of playing, Sesame Street or kids records, he tried Billy Cobham. The album was called Spectrum when I was about 4 years old, and I had never heard anything like that in my life. And I didn't know what it was called, so I asked my uncle. His name was Uncle Pop. Uncle Pop, what is that? What do you call it? He said, it's jazz. And that was 1974. And I went to the J.C. Penney's in my town in Rochester, New York, and I asked the clerk, where can you find Billy Cobham in the jazz section? And she was amazed, like looking down at the counter and seeing a 4-year-old boy asking for Billy Cobham, and then she pointed me to the jazz section. I went through the C's, found Cobham, she pointed me, and then I found the record. I had to four, so I needed help to actually be lifted up and then put down into the record section, grabbed the record, went to the counter, my parents paid the money, and off I went to my life of jazz. Well, from there, I just got more and more, and the more I listened to it, the more I wanted to learn about it. And so I was kindergarten, and my first show was to see George Benson. This is 1976, and the Breezin' Tour. My dad took me, and with Lou Rawls, and I had never seen so many people dressed up, and the music was amazing, and I was first amazed that I could stay up late, one. Two, I got to see a live jazz show, and I thought somehow, some way I have to be associated with this, either by playing the music, producing the music, but somehow be a part of this world, because I just couldn't get enough of it. And so the more I learned it, so I would go to my school library, and I would pick out jazz books, any jazz books I could find. I was in first, second, third grade, and I was just like, I just couldn't get enough. So I learned about Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong and Miles Davis, and I just couldn't get enough of it. So it was like fired a lifelong addiction to this music that we call jazz, and I'm still trying to find a cure to it. I hope I never do. Sure. When I was about 12 years old, I called my local radio station, WGMC Jazz 90.1. This was about 1982. And I called saying I always wanted to do a jazz show Sunday nights between 10 p.m. and 1, 2 in the morning. This is during the summer. And they asked me, how old are you? And I said, I'm 12. They said, well, if you're still interested in radio, call us back when you're done with high school. So my senior year of high school, getting toward graduation, I called the station. I said, do you remember me? I'm the kid who called about 6 years ago asking about a Sunday night jazz show. Do you remember? I said, yes, we remember you. Well, is the offer still there? Like, yeah, are you serious? Like, yeah. So they called me that day. I went to the station, and fast forward 26 years later, the Spectrum is still on Sunday nights, but I also am on the air overnights from midnight to about 4 or 5 in the morning. So that's been my lifelong dream, to be an overnight DJ. I'm also the music director of the station. I also do sales for the station and promotions. But my lifelong dream was to be an overnight DJ. And so here I am, 26 years later, still doing it. Well, for me, when I first started with the station back in the late 80s, it was primarily a smooth jazz, contemporary jazz format, because that was the popular jazz at the time. And so what's happened over the years, you've seen an evolution and I guess revolution in the music. Now we're looking at, instead of Kenny G and let's say Dave Koz, nothing wrong with that. Now it's kind of like gone into like more of the classic jazz again from like the 1950s and 60s. So it's kind of interesting watching that develop over the 3 decades or so I've been doing radio. So I was done a complete shift again to acoustic style based jazz, as well as electronic jazz is popular, like bands like Snarky Puppy, also EDM, electronic dance music. There's so many different permutations and variations of jazz now, and we like to showcase all of it because it's like a gigantic buffet table. If you don't like this certain kind of jazz, try this, or try that. And really, that's what our big challenge is, and that's our biggest need and reason we get up in the morning, because we love to expose as many people as possible to all the different wonderful worlds of jazz has to offer. It's really, truly a world of music. Well, our audience demographics have changed throughout the years. Traditionally, public radio has always had a traditional white male 55 plus has been the traditional mantra, but what we've seen, it's not that at all. It depends on what time of day people are listening to. So maybe during the afternoon, it might be your traditional NPR audience. Sometimes at night, our audience has shifted. It's female, between 25 and 45. So, and this is based on people who donate to the station is what we're basing this research off of. So also we realize there's a large segment of women who listen to our station and not only listen, they support the cause because jazz is an emotional music. And so people feel they donate not because they know it's the right thing to do, they donate because something has impelled them to give to a station and listen to a station and support the station. So we've seen that as well as with the advent of social media. Most of our listeners now are our biggest advertisers and promoters because they'll say, hey, turn on to this station here online at such and such, jazz901.org, or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest, because it's about sharing. Jazz is a social music, and so people will take what they love and they feel passionate about it and they want to share that passion. And so we've noticed that demographic shift from traditional white males to now black females, Latino females, white females, women in general. That's been our biggest boost in terms of our promotional efforts, our events. It's been mostly women. So that's been an interesting transition as well as an eye-opener for us in terms of how we program the music as well as promote and showcase the music. The Newport Jazz Festival is the Mecca. I've been coming here since 2006, so this is my 10th year coming, and for years I would read about it, had the albums, and I just thought, wow, one day I'll never make it because it's so far, and it's just, there's so much going on, and it's just like, I always had such a reverential awe for this festival and the work that George Weena has done. I thought I shouldn't come here. And one day someone said, yes, you should come here, everybody should come here, because jazz needs more people. And so I thought, let's do it. And I made the 8-hour drive from Rochester, New York to Newport, Rhode Island. And then you come over the bridge and you see the water and you see the fort and you see, and also you get hit with that history of Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Bob Dylan. All of their careers were changed and their lives were changed in this place in Newport. And so to come here and see the history and George Weena still being here 60 plus years later, I'll keep coming back as long as I can. Hopefully as long as George has been here. Derrick Lucas.